This week we've been working on the quadratic graphing project that you've been doing, which has involved you having a quadratic word problem. You had to find the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and the vertex and graph it, and then connect it to the word problem. So this video is going to be about the types of questions that you may see that require you to have that information that you have learned from the project. So, looking at the problem on the screen, a projectile is launched vertically upward from the ground at an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. Its descent to the ground is along the same vertical path. The following function models the height h of the projectile after t seconds. And we're given h equals negative 16t squared plus 80t. Answer the following. A, what is the greatest height the projectile reaches? B, how long will it take for the projectile to hit the ground? So when we're talking about finding information about a problem that is with a quadratic function, we're going to be looking for one of our main pieces of information or another piece of information that we're going to talk about at a later time. You're going to be looking at this point for either the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, or the vertex. So looking at the first question, what is the greatest height the projectile reaches? So you have to determine what you have to find in order to know that information. Your key term here that you need to think about is greatest height. When we talk about greatest height, that should automatically lead you to the piece of information that you need to look for. You should notice that when we talk about the greatest height in a quadratic function, we're going to be looking for the vertex. So you have to figure out how to find the vertex. And I gave you the information that you need to find the x value of the vertex. You do the opposite of b divided by 2a, and then you plug that in to the equation. So let's take what we know. We know that a is negative 16, b is 80, c is 0. Now we have to find the vertex. So I'm going to plug into the opposite of b. Opposite of b is a negative 80 over 2 times a, which is negative 16. Now you put this into the calculator, and you have to be careful to put it into the calculator correctly. So I'm going to do negative 80 divided by parentheses 2 times negative 16, close parentheses, and I get 2.5. So I now know that my vertex, the x value, is 2.5, or in this case, it is the t value. To find the y value, or the h, I'm going to plug in 2.5 into the problem. So negative 16 times 2.5 squared plus 80 times 2.5. So into the calculator, and I get, make sure that you put the squared outside of the parentheses, plus 80 times 2.5, I get 100. That is my h of my vertex. So the question asked, what is the greatest height? So I've got to determine, does my t represent height or my h? We know that this is the height because it's the h, the height h of the projectile. So your answer, the greatest height, is 100 feet. All right, now for the next one. How long will it take for the projectile to hit the ground? So I'm thinking, here's my graph. I know my projectile is launching vertically and then it's coming back down. If the x value is my t, I need to know what this point is. That means that I have to look for my x-intercepts. And I've taught you how to find your x-intercepts. You always use quadratic formula, which is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to extend the page. So x equals, I'll be able to see it, opposite of b, so that's 80, 80 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 0, all over 2 times negative 16. So I'm going to calculate what's underneath the square root first. So I put that into the calculator, and I get 80. I calculate with the square root, and I get 80. So x equals negative 80 plus 80 divided by negative 32. And remember, you have to break this up into two different equations. So we're doing plus or minus. So negative 80 plus 80 divided by negative 32, and negative 80 minus 80 divided by negative 32. This one right here is going to come up to be 0, because negative 80 plus 80 is 0. So I'm going to check the other one. Negative 80 minus 80, hit enter, divided by negative 32, gives me 5. Now, that is this point, 5, 0. It can't be 0, 0, because that's my starting point. I want my ending time. So the answer is, it will take 5 seconds. All right, so now you need to go and answer the questions on the document and submit that. Make sure that it's not late. You want to make sure that you are continuing to meet the expectations of the classroom.